Call the meeting in order, regular town council meeting, Monday, November 11th. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, Mike Joseph,
Here.
Dale Macklin,
Yep.
Fran Hudson,
Here.
Adam Lint,
Here.
Lee Trahan,
Here.
and Jeff West.
Here.
Is there any disclosures of conflict of interest this evening? None?
Audra, can I interrupt for 1 minute?
Sure.
I'd ask that we all do a moment of silence for 2 reasons tonight. Number 1, Veterans Day, and number 2, 5 years ago today, we lost a firefighter of ours, Scott Higgins. I'm sorry. Thank you. It's okay.
Okay, we'd like to try to move public comment to the beginning of the meeting. Is there a motion to do that?
I'll move it. So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Mike Joseph,
No.
Dale Macklin,
Yes.
Fran Hudson,
No.
Adam Lint,
Yes.
Lee Trahan,
Yes.
and Jeff West.
Yes.
Motion to move public comment to the beginning of the meeting passes 4-2. Okay, I'm just going to read my normal statement. Any person wishing to verbally address the council on any matter before it may do so, providing permission is first obtained from the council chair. Each person addressing the council shall stand and give the person's name and address in an audible tone of voice for the record, and shall limit remarks to the time allotted, which is 3 minutes, by the council chair. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any member thereof. No person other than the council and the person having the floor shall be permitted to enter into any discussion, either directly or through a counselor, without the permission of the council chair. No question shall be asked a counselor except through the council chair. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks, or who shall become boisterous while addressing the council, shall be forthwith by the council chair barred from further audience before the council, unless permission to continue is granted by the majority vote of the council. Side conversations will not be tolerated. I do have numerous letters or statements that I've been asked to read. The first one is from Brenda Barham on Charlin Street. I want to thank our town manager, Ella Bowman, for her dedication to Winslow and to its citizens. I forgot to start the timer. It angers me that the chaotic and hateful environment created by the 3 newest town councilors deprive Ella of the peace and professionalism required to perform the task she was hired to do. And yet, still, she delivered. Thank you, Ella. I am so very sorry this town failed you, and you will be missed by many. To say that the behavior of the 3 newest council members and the councilor-elect has been disappointing would be the understatement of the year, especially their derogatory remarks, actions, and misuse of social media platforms to formate and grow vile rhetoric that pushes personal agendas above the health and safety of the town they were sworn to serve. Such conduct undermines our town's values, repels families and businesses from calling Winslow home, and raises the risk of financial liability for the town. This needs to be turned around. Council members' personal beliefs and agendas should be held as more important than that of the welfare of the community. I urge the 3 newest council members and the councilor-elect to apologize to both Ella and the town and to commit to actively working towards creating a respectful, inclusive community. If this is a bridge too far and they are unwilling to uphold these standards they were sworn to uphold, then they should consider resigning for the town's future. Okay, let me see if I can do this time. Statement number 2 is from Steve Russell, who lives on Garland Road. A quick glance of the history of Winslow's town managers. In the first 45 years of a town manager, town council form of government, Winslow employed only 3 town managers. We are now about to hire our 3rd in a period of 5 short years. Coincidence? I don't think so. Perhaps it is a symptom of the times. Let this serve as a warning, a yellow flag to citizens of Winslow. Something is askew, and if left unchecked, will prove harmful to our community. To be forewarned is to be forearmed. See, I've already messed this up. I can't do it. Okay. The 3rd one is by Sophia Wheat from Randall Road. 1 year ago, I was very excited because I was a first-time home buyer and found a perfect house in a town my family has lived in for generations. But a year later, I am so disappointed by what has transpired. Town councilors are elected to not only promote and ensure town members have basic needs such as food, clean water, and housing, they are also elected to be leaders who promote security, safety, and community. This means attracting people to Winslow so we can afford to live here. As a town, we will all fall behind socially and economically if we do not learn this. It is disturbing to see that council members' energy is being spent on attack, belittle, conspire, discriminate, polarize, and demean fellow community members, most recently our talented town manager, who I am devastated to see leave. It feels like certain town councilors are bullies on a middle school playground instead of leaders in local government. Some council members are not treating this position like the privilege that it is. Even the simplest, most positive change, such as Ms. Bowman's attempt to prevent tax increase, were attacked and criticized. No one can thrive in this type of work environment. Speaking of environment, a vengeful few are quite literally dismantling the most natural human instinct we share, which is to form communities. This is how we succeed, by having strong social connections. That being said, if you know in your heart that you cannot change course to be accepting of all people in this town, regardless of their gender, identity, race, disability, etc., please do not claim to represent all humans from all walks of life with integrity and compassion. Please resign. Thank you. On to the next one. Mary Drysome, who lives on Bowden Street. Winslow is a wonderful place to live. I consider sitting on a bench watching one of our glorious sunsets over the Kennebec River about as good as life can be. It is a beautiful experience, even if it heralds a coming darkness. Winslow has had many wonderful days in its past, but now is in a very dark place. Difference is openly ridiculed. Hate has obstructed the fact that we all, no matter what sexual orientation, ethnicity, or faith, or political affiliation, or color of skin, share a common humanity. Bigotry and vicious, no-holds-barred social media Facebook campaigns have created a dark atmosphere for the very employees who make this town function on a day-to-day basis. A very competent and to many beloved town manager has resigned. Certain members and members-elect of our town council have actively participated in the creation of this current atmosphere of transphobia, hate, and darkness. As a scholar of the Salem witch trials, I can say that while hate may seem to be putting the win in Winslow now, it is an unstable foundation of governance. It cannot prevail simply because most people are inherently decent. In 1692, a small group used to fear and hate to kill 19 of their neighbors that they had labeled as witches, many of whom didn't quite fit into their Puritan ideal citizen category. But that darkness episode was not sustained for long. In 1693, 12 jurymen publicly apologized for their misjudgment. In 1702, the Massachusetts General Court declared the trials unlawful. Many people don't realize that the taxpayers also paid compensation to those aggravated to the equivalent of $1,312,800 in modern dollars. The decent people of the Massachusetts colony had to pay for hate. I believe that if any of the last year's town council behaviors is found to be illegal, it will cost the taxpayers of Winslow a similar fortune. It disgusts me that people who run on a hold the line on taxes platform have put our town in jeopardy of expensive lawsuits because they have forgotten how to be decent and represent the people, all the people. They have already wasted our taxes by racking up huge taxpayer-funded legal fees.
Audra, that's the 3 minutes.
Thank you. Okay, sorry, there's still more. Okay, the next one, Kyla Mihalowicz, who lives on Corbett Lane. I'd first like to recognize the veterans to our community, including my husband, who has served our great country through military service, both during peace and times of war. Thank you. The activities of some of our council members and a council member-elect on and off social media have caused great harm to our community. The same people who promised transparency hatched a secretive plot to have other council members removed from office while recovering from a private medical event. They've engaged in a pattern of harmful, discriminatory behavior towards the town manager in many ways, on social media, in person, and even with the feeble attempt to cry wolf and involve the courts. While executive sessions are sometimes necessary, we've racked up nearly $10,000 in excessive legal fees recently by engaging in a slew of these meetings, which were closed to the public. There have been 2 instances where particular members' actions have caused harm to Winslow's reputation in Maine by involving other towns' emergency departments in conflict. They've continued targeting the town employees on social media pages, which is controlled by a council member and their spouse. As yet, every qualified municipal employee in Maine know that if they work in Winslow, it's only a matter of time before they themselves find a bullseye on their back. These targeted harassments extended to community members, other community leaders, candidates, and brought businesses and private citizens into the fray without their consent. How can we attract new homeowners, businesses, and workers when this is what we are known for throughout Maine? Whistleblowers in this activity and advocates for the community are not causing harm. The blame does not rest on those who've called out this bully behavior. It lies at the bully's feet. There is so much good in our little town. It's what brought a lot of us to Winslow and made so many stay for generations. There has to be some accountability before we can move forward and heal from this. I am calling on the 4 people involved in this ongoing, harmful, and often discriminatory action to resign from their positions so we can begin the work it is going to take to restore our town's reputation. I regret that an illness has kept me from attending in person and thank our town clerk for relaying this message. Thank you. 3 more to go. This one is from Sharon Taylor on Frankwood Drive. I grew up in Winslow and have spent nearly 40 years of my life here. I love this town, but recent events have exposed a dark current of hate and bigotry that makes me ashamed to call Winslow my home. My parents taught me to judge people on their character and their actions, not by their skin color, religion, or identity. A select few on the town council apparently never learned these lessons. They prefer hate, prejudice, and bullying over providing good government for all citizens of our town. They're willing to lie about anyone that they don't like if it means getting what they want for themselves. When called out on their lies, they claim victimhood and excuse their victims of being the offender. Don't be fooled by this petty, small-minded people who want to turn our good town into their own private domain, where they never be held accountable for their actions. Instead, stand up for what's right. Demand that these counselors step aside and do what's right for all Winslow. On to the next one. This one is from Zachary Oben on Rancourt Avenue. As most know, our town manager, Ella, has decided to step down. This was a decision that was made as a result of bullying and hate campaign that was aimed at her and members of the community who support Ella. This is seen as a victory to certain elected town council members, but I assure you that it is not. This is a loss for Winslow. Whether or not you've agreed with Ella's employment as our town manager, this behavior has tarnished the reputation of Winslow that caused hurt to the community and its members. Hardly a winning strategy, in my opinion. This does not make Winslow an attractive town to move to or even stay in. Winslow is much better than this. To those elected to the town council that have behaved in such a way, I urge you to ask yourself, would I be okay if this was in the news tomorrow? Before acting or speaking about anything. If you are not willing to apologize and bring ethical standards back to town governance, then you should resign immediately and end the embarrassing antics you brought with you. Thank you. And this is the last one from Elizabeth Ryder at 1 Chickadee Trail. To the Winslow Town Council, I understand our town manager has resigned due to a lack of support, negative comments, and harassment by citizens and some council members. I do not believe the issues are for job performance, but personal prejudice against Manager Bowman. I am extremely disappointed. No, distressed. No, disgusted and angry that some members have used their position and social media to work against a manager who was hired to do a job for this town. They have made a difficult job more difficult. These same individuals, town representatives, are not living up to the pledge that they had taken on our citizenry. They bring the shame to this town. Instead of town manager Bowman resigning, I would like to see those unsupportive councilors resign and be replaced. You know who you are. Shame on you. That's all I have.
Good. Is there anybody from the audience that would like to speak?
My name is Mackenzie Oben. I live on Rancourt Ave. I want to take the opportunity first to thank our town manager, Ella Bowman, for her service to the town of Winslow and to wish her the absolute best in her future endeavors. I would like to express in the strongest terms my displeasure with the conduct of members of this council who contributed to the hostile environment that our town manager has been subjected to over the past year. Town councilors are elected officials representing the people, and as such are expected to govern fairly and without discrimination. Councilors are not supposed to abuse their power to drive a dedicated municipal employee to quit. Councilors are not supposed to use a community Facebook page to bully, harass, or silence people who disagree with them politically or allow others to do so on their behalf. Councilors are expected to conduct themselves with integrity, honesty, and respect. You have failed. This unacceptable behavior has become so normalized that we have a town councilor-elect who made extremely derogatory comments about transgender individuals publicly and then felt emboldened to demand that I cease and desist when I exercised my First Amendment right and brought attention to it. Addressing grievances with elected officials is a bedrock principle of American democracy, and anyone who would try to subvert that right would do so only because they benefit from the silence of the people. This must come to an end. In the municipal government world, Winslow is seen as a laughingstock due to the incompetence and hostility of newly elected councilors. Qualified and accomplished candidates are being encouraged by their peers to steer clear of our town's employment postings as a result of this. As I warned in a public comment several months ago, this continued behavior may very likely result in liability for Winslow. The Maine Human Rights Act is clear about prohibited forms of discrimination, including gender identity, and the Maine Human Rights Commission aggressively investigates discrimination complaints. Between the discriminatory behavior towards Ella Bowman and the nearly $10,000 in extraneous legal fees our new counselors have already racked up in the past year with other antics, Winslow cannot afford to continue footing the bill for the continued ineptitude and destructive behavior of these elected officials. I call on the 3 counselors who assumed their roles last December to formally apologize for the hostile culture of harassment, intimidation, and bullying that has been allowed to fester in our town government since their elections, and to commit to building an inclusive and welcoming environment for all Winslow residents. I also call on Winslow's new counselor-elect to apologize publicly for her remarks that were discriminatory and hateful towards transgender individuals, and commit to advancing the acceptance, inclusion, and respect of the LGBTQ citizens of Winslow, of which there are many. If none of you are willing to take ownership of your actions and apologize, then I call on you to resign because you are not fit for the office that you occupy. Lastly, to the LGBTQ citizens of Winslow, I see you, you are loved, and you belong in Winslow just as much as everyone else.
My name is
Learning.
My name's Melissa Sullivan. I have lived at 13 Boston Ave for 13 years now. I would like to address the resignation of our town manager, Ella Bowman. In the year that she has been our town manager, she has implemented the budget that was passed and approved by the town council. She found a creative way to fund the school budget without increasing our tax burden. And in addition to all of the other things she has done for Winslow, she has been an approachable and respectable leader. I had the pleasure of working as an election clerk during this past election and was able to witness firsthand the kind of manager Ella has been for our town. She came into the office each day with a smile. She checked in with each of her department heads and made sure to say hi to each of the election clerks who were working that day. In addition to having various meetings in her office and other locations throughout the day, she always kept her door open to allow anyone to come in and speak with her. On many days, someone from town would pop their head into her office, ask if she had a moment, and would leave a short conversation later with a handshake and a thank you. That's what small town politics should look like, the ability to talk face to face with each other and find solutions. It breaks my heart that the harassment and unprofessional treatment Ella has endured from our community have brought her to this point of resigning from this position. There is a silent majority of our town who have fully supported Ella and who respect and appreciate her decades of municipal service. Unfortunately, it took Ella's resignation for us to come forward and speak out against this childish behavior. I am so sorry it took this long. Moving forward, I would love to see the Winslow that I know and love come back to the table at our council meetings. We are not DC politicians who spend more time arguing than getting things done, or who think compromise is a 4-letter word. We are neighbors who support each other and work together for the good of our community. We have to work together to make things better. Thank you.
Heather Thorne, Abbott Road. I started coming to town council meetings when there was an agenda item that directly affected me and my family. I didn't want to get up and speak, but I did because it meant that much to me. I feel like this moment is kind of the same thing. I don't like that I'm up here, as I'm sure the others don't as well, but here we are. This moment affects all of us. The actions of few are affecting every single household in Winslow. Because of the actions of few, we are all losing one of the best town managers to be here in Winslow, if not the whole area. She doesn't even live in Winslow, but she's trying to make this a better place for us. She's trying to dig Winslow out of a hole, get us out of debt, pay cash for things, and set us up for a successful future. There is such an unrealistic expectation that everything will be fixed immediately with someone new at the helm. Things take time, and she wasn't given that. If anyone in this room owns a business, manages, or even just works at a business, you know how hard it is to get good help. Our town employees are knowledgeable, friendly, and very approachable, but you have to show them the same respect. I talked to one employee at a council meeting,
And I said, I can't imagine working in your office right now with everything going on. They said it has been the most stressful work environment they've ever had to work in. Who wants to go to work like that every day? And that's because of the turmoil that's being sent into the town office. If it were not for the encouraging and supportive town manager, I bet we'd have more than one spot to fill in our town office. As for the social media pages, it's appalling to see the behaviors on there. It is embarrassing. That is the representation we have for our town. When someone new moves to town or is visiting, they look for a town's Facebook page to see if there are events going on. And instead, they see grown adults bullying and harassing their neighbors. It doesn't look like a very friendly place to visit or to live. Those whose actions push the town manager to the point of wanting to resign should be ashamed of themselves. Enough is enough. I know the few loud ones are not the real people of Winslow. The real people of Winslow are kind, caring, hardworking, understanding, and friendly. I know I'm proud to live in Winslow, and I think everyone else in this room is too.
My name is Randy Clatchy, and I live on First Street. And first, I'd like to apologize to Ella for the hateful actions and behaviors you've endured from some town council members and community members. These actions are unacceptable and do not reflect the values of our town. I'm embarrassed that people have shown you so much negativity and disrespect. Your dedication and integrity in serving our community have been invaluable, and it's disheartening that your efforts have been met with hostility. These actions do not represent the feelings of the entire community. Many of us are grateful for your hard work and your commitment. Based on the actions of what I hope is a minority, we've received national attention. Winslow no longer looks like a safe place for everyone. Winslow should be committed to addressing and rectifying the issues that led to this situation. There is a need for greater empathy, understanding, and respect for all individuals, regardless of their background or their identity. We should be determined to learn from this experience and take the steps to ensure that this behavior is never repeated. Ella, thank you for serving this town with respect, grace, and dignity, and I'm sorry the same was not extended to you by all.
Jude Carey, Raleigh Street. I want to wholeheartedly thank our town manager for her dedication and hard work for the people of this town. She has been an advocate in trying to promote new businesses to move here to increase the tax revenue. She has tweaked and recalculated budget numbers to ensure that our public safety department has what it needs to keep our community safe. She has made harsh budget cuts when necessary in trying to save money to keep our mill rate stable, because she knows that there currently are townspeople who are struggling to pay their taxes. But most importantly, in my opinion, she has supported our schools to ensure that our children, the shining stars of our future, receive the highest quality education they so rightly deserve. What more do we want from a town manager? I am appalled by the actions of some of our town council members this past year, and embarrassed and ashamed of the words on social media that come from some of our citizens. You can deny your prejudices all you want, but keep in mind that your words and actions speak loud and clear. Injustices and prejudices are not right, nor should we ever allow them to be right. For the growth of our town, the sake of its people, but most importantly, for the well-being of our children, we should do better. We can do better. We must do better. Let's be the example that the youngsters in our community can be proud of. In honor and memory of my high school English teacher, let me rephrase that since I ended that with a preposition. Let's be the example of which the youngsters in our community can be proud. Town Manager Ms. Bowman, Ella, if I may, I thank you for your courage, your professionalism, and your dedicated service to the people of this community. I am so sorry for the harm and hurtfulness that some have caused you, leading to your decision to resign. When you walk out the town office doors for the very last time with your head held high, you truly will be a loss for the town of Winslow. Thank you, Council, for your time.
Good evening. My name is Taylor White, and I live on Warren Terrace here in Winslow. In 2023, the Human Rights Campaign issued a national state of emergency for LGBTQ Americans, the first time this type of notice has been declared in over 40 years. We saw the highest rise in hate crimes in the U.S. between 2021 and 2022, when the FBI noted a 32% increase in hate crimes based on an individual's sexual orientation or gender identity. On top of that, homophobic Americans have been murdering LGBTQ allies, including a young woman in California who was shot and killed after refusing to take down a pride flag in her home. This hate has resulted in over 350 deaths in a 10-year period. I don't need to spell out why I'm bringing up these statistics today. Thankfully, we live in a state where there aren't any restrictive pieces of legislation on gender identity or care, which is wonderful. That's what freedom is. Our state is in line with the Human Rights Campaign call to action to keep LGBTQ community members safe. However, that doesn't mean that we as a community are doing what we need to do to ensure that we feel safe. My roots in Maine may be winding, but my time residing here has been short. I have not lived in Winslow for more than 2 years, and it has become abundantly clear to me that our town is lacking in compassion and grace on a public scale. I am sure the majority in this municipality are kind-hearted and loving neighbors. Unfortunately, that doesn't cancel out the hate all over our town's community pages. I have noticed these declarations of hate are coming from a few of the same people, and while I don't know your faces, I have become to know your names. I won't say them here, but please know that none of you are people I want near my children, and are not people I will look to for guidance as my participation in this town council grows. I also want to make sure those commenters are aware that I will be here from now on, and I won't be quiet. As an Air Force veteran who served for a decade overseas away from my family, I did not leave that service behind to move here and watch my neighbors be bullied by closed-minded adults. If anyone in this town is in need of a safe space or an advocate, I am here for you. If anyone in this town has a child working through their identity or orientation and is in need of a friend that can help raise that child in a safe and loving place, I am here for you. If anyone wants to discuss ideas on how we can create an inclusive and friendly community, I am here for you. For everyone else, I'm here, and I look forward to working with all of you in the future.
Tanya Verzoni, Smiley Avenue. Just about 10 years ago, I had the pleasure of working with Ella Bowman when I was employed with the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce and Central Maine Growth Council. It is the economic development organization for Waterville, Winslow, Fairfield, and Oakland. Throughout her career with the town of Oakland, I witnessed her efforts to attract and retain businesses in that town, leverage both private and public funds to accomplish goals, complete projects under budget, respecting the taxpayers' dollars, and create events which showcased and celebrated that community. When I learned that Ella was hired to be our town manager, I was ecstatic and hopeful for our town. Instead of embracing Ella and leveraging her proven skill set to the benefit of our town, our councilors have spent more time fighting each other and acting on their own personal agendas and biases. We need a council who will work together to support and attract businesses, utilize taxpayer dollars to best serve all citizens, and highlight Winslow as a great place to work, live, and raise a family. People from all over Maine and beyond are watching your abhorrent behavior, and we, the residents, will continue to suffer the consequences. Whether you are actively engaging in the unacceptable behavior or idly standing by and watching it happen and choosing not to speak up, you are part of the problem. I urge you to do the right thing and resign. With all this negative attention, I'm concerned that we will be unsuccessful in finding another qualified candidate to replace Ella. Who would want to face a council like this and believe that they could achieve meaningful results and progress? It is time that we as residents hold our elected councillors accountable for their actions. We must require them to do better or step aside for the well-being of our community. Ella, I support you in your desire to resign and remove yourself from this toxic environment. I thank you for all you've done for Winslow and wish you the best in your future endeavors.
Crow McCory, Charlton Street. And I don't know who my representatives are advocating for, since it's not me. I would say I don't see myself in their interests, but I do. I work in education. I will be working in education for the rest of my life. I should not have to address full-grown councilmen the same way I would a child. The peak of my patriotism was when my mother told me about Ella, our town manager. She was not only a woman, but a transgender one. Every ounce of self-hatred was replaced with feelings of hope. I felt powerful, just like every American should. Ella and I shared one conversation during her time as town manager, yet we are connected through a community of love, acceptance, and expression. That representation mattered. The positive influence of Ella holding such a position had an impact on my community. It was eye-opening. We were not just here, we were acknowledged. We were seen and we were heard. I am not transgender, but my best friend is. She'd be my maid of honor if she'll ever get the chance to. If her freedom to reflect the woman in her soul is upheld. Look around. Look at the people who we have elected and prove to me that they have her best interest in mind. You can promise anything, but it is your actions that speak louder. And because of their actions, Ella is resigning, and you people are laughing about it. With the distaste queer people now face in the town, I don't see what I once saw in Winslow. What I see isn't a town willing to support my friend's freedom. I see ignorance. I see a community ravaged by hate. I see councilmen plotting to win a war against an invented enemy. It is your job to foster the freedom of each individual who lives in Winslow. It is your job as councilmen to represent those among you. And if you choose to look through a lens of hatred, you are unfit to provide anything for Winslow, and your resignation is necessary. Each ban, each policy, every single executive action you may take to push us down will bear you no fruit. We are not our labels. We are people.
Good evening. My name is Kate Spicer. I live on Clinton Avenue. In January of 2016, the opportunity for myself and my family came to move to a new permanent location. At the time, it was a choice between Georgia and Maine. I grew up in California, moved to Puerto Rico, lived in Indiana for 13 years, and found the topography, the people, and the attitudes of Maine to be a perfect fit for what I wanted for my future and my children. I will also admit that as an ornithologist, the draw of Atlantic puffins was a little bit of a big deal for me. After looking for months, my husband and I found a house in Augusta, but that fell through. And we lucked into our home here in Winslow. And I truly mean that we lucked into it. As an outsider, I was a little concerned about being from away, and I was worried that not being born and raised here would be a stumbling block. Within a scant few months of arrival, I realized that these fears were unfounded. My family was welcomed by our neighbors, and any of you that have had Senior Andreessen's cookies know exactly what I'm speaking about. We were welcomed by the school system and community sports programs. We felt like we belonged. And in the 8+ years we have lived here, we have found a sense of community. Sadly, the last 4 months have cast a pall over the previous 8 years. In online forums, I have seen comments to the effect of our town needs to be run only by those from here. I've seen bigotry. I've seen threats. As a result, I now feel othered. I have seen hate and nastiness come out of folks who are lifelong residents. I have seen that hate in action with how Town Manager Bowman has been treated. I feel thankful that she has accomplished as much as she has, despite the pointed negativity from sitting town councilors who have engaged in these behaviors or not stepped in to stop these behaviors. As far as I'm concerned, being silent conveys approval of these behaviors. If we as a community want to attract new residents and businesses, the othering, the bigotry, and hate cannot be allowed to continue. Right now, we are letting sitting members and incoming members of this town council place Winslow on the front page of national news in a negative light. As a town, I believe we need to show our commitment to not being this way, and as such, I believe that the responsible parties should resign from their positions as town councilors if they cannot commit to serving all members of our community. Ms. Bowman, thank you for your direction and hard work for all the citizens of Winslow. You will be greatly missed.
Lisa Carey, China Road. First of all, Jeffrey, I wanted to thank you for bringing Scoot's memory up because it means a lot to me as well. So I haven't written down anything because I've just been listening to people. And honestly, I have never seen any of the town councilors bring up the gender card at all. It's been so many people on social media who are bringing up the gender card and throwing it in the ring and accusing the town council of doing stuff. You know, you want to talk about hate on social media? Not any of these town councilors have responded. It's been the people in the audience that are being the hatred people. You know, and if you want to look in the mirror when you start accusing people of hatred and bigotry and anything else. Because I've lived here all my life. I love this town. And it's actually embarrassing right now to listen to all you accuse a town council of stuff when you can't even look in the mirror and say the same thing for yourself. So that's all I gotta say.
Good evening, Steve Susi, 1 Sam Street. For the town to begin to heal and move forward, truth must come to light, and malfeasance must be exposed. So I have a few notes and a few questions. Perception is reality. However, everything you read in the local paper is not truth nor reality. In an email dated as far back as February 15th at 12:46 p.m., the town manager stated, "I truly believe there will not be a story written on this. The reporter stepped out of bounds in the past and was reeled in. I met with the editor and him, the reporter, and we discussed that the only way that I can get this town turned around was to end the BS. They agreed to back away from the negative stories. I have also seen a video where a sitting councilor told the school board chair that the same reporter was given a tune-up at the shop. I'll let you figure out what that is. So I'm wondering if this is why the public is unaware of the malfeasance being wielded in this small town. On January 17, 2024 at 9:15 a.m., the town manager wrote, "There's a learning curve with the new council members. If they step out of bounds, I will do what I need to do to bring them into the work zone. They're a part of my team and they need to learn the rules of the road." By charter, and by my understanding of the charter, the town manager works at the pleasure of the council. not the other way around. In January 20th, 2024, January 20th, the town manager said, "Very shortly, I will be moving on. Winslow is not for me." In conclusion, I have a few questions. When the town manager resigned from Oakland, 6 employees had filed complaints against her. Have employees complained against her here in Winslow? Has that factored into the resignation? Does the resignation have anything to do with the possible litigation against the town going on right now? Over the summer, 5 executive sessions resulted in roughly $12,000 in legal fees because the town manager threatened to sue the town and several council members. The threats concluded with, if one council member would just apologize, Ella would drop everything. Nothing happened because there's nothing there.
Okay, we're not gonna have that. I'll shut this meeting right down. I have no problem doing that. Next.
My name is Kyle Price. I live at 147 Clinton Avenue. I've lived in the town for 18 years, and it was the school system that brought our family here. Like has already been said, I'd like to thank our veterans for their service. I'm the proud son of a Marine. I'm the son-in-law of 2 Air Force veterans, and I'm the father of a career Navy officer. I agree with most all of the comments that were made here tonight with regard to the negative climate and the culture that our town council has created. You know, I shouldn't have to come up here and wonder if another agenda item here, which would be the town charter, which I have submitted an application for, will have any bearing on my outcome as a potential member of that committee. I'd like to just shift a little bit, because I'm not going to try to repeat everything that's been so eloquently said in support of Ella and the concerns that I have, because I have witnessed the climate that I feel that the council has created. I think the vote tonight to actually move this public session to the beginning of the meeting is an indication of the lack of the ability to get along and cooperate and reach some consensus and work together and move forward. The budget process for the school, and I'm sure the town, is already underway. If any council member has any doubts with regard to the school budget that will be presented in the spring by the school board and the superintendent, I urge you to attend all of the school board meetings and workshops between now and then. If you're not going to trust the school board and the superintendent, we'll bring you a responsible budget that best meets the needs of our students. And again, I encourage you to attend all the school board meetings and workshops between now and then. In my opinion, watching them online will not be sufficient because you need to be present so that you're able to be a part of the dialogue and ask any questions that you may have that will help you be fully informed of the budget that they will present. Ella, thank you for your service. I have found you to have that open door that's been described. I've only been in a couple of times, and I work with people who have known you your entire life, and the first thing they said is how wonderful you were when the news broke that you were going to be our town manager. I wish you the very best, and I hope that our council can work together to reach some consensus and some uniformity and become united to serve the people of this town. Thank you.
Anyone else? Steve Joseph. I live on Poland Street, and I don't like what's going on. I know of a couple things that have happened during this time. I know as far as regular town meetings, there's been 16 of them. As far as executive sessions, there's been 17 of them. That doesn't make much sense to me. I know of one town council that resigned. I know of another town council that some people on this town council wanted to remove because he was out on medical leave. And now they forcing Ella out of here. This isn't good. Ella, I thank you for what you've done. It's not your fault. And I wish you the best.
Good evening. I'm Esther Miller, China Road. I want to thank everyone who's spoken tonight on both sides of this issue. A couple of points I'd like to highlight. Mr. Price was the principal of Winslow Elementary School for years. I have a great deal of respect for this man. How dare you focus on a person's gender identity in this town? We need bus drivers. We need taxpayers. We need people here making sure that this place is the best place to live. How dare you make this even an issue? I see neighbors, friends, family members, veterans, people I love in this room. A neighbor I can open my door for and offer a cup of sugar to should that person be in need. And never deny, no matter their beliefs. For shame on this town. For shame.
Anyone else? Being none, we will close the comment section.
Jeff, is anybody outside?
Can you ask?
Is there anyone out in the lobby that would like to speak? Step in. Oh, I guess not.
Okay. Public comment is now closed.
Through the chair, can I address?
Nope.
Can I ask why?
Because it's not part of public comment.
I can address some of the needs or questions that they had.
This isn't the
All
time
right,
or
so
place.
it's the chair that won't want me to speak.
So, Bill, would you like to weigh in on that? It's not part of our rules.
Well, it's discretionary. Generally speaking, under the rules, it's just if public comment is to receive comments and not get into a back and forth dialogue.
Correct.
We've made exceptions before. That's initially be the chair's decision on that, and if the majority of the council felt otherwise, then the council could overrule the chair.
If you want to overrule it, go ahead.
I'm not going to go for a vote that I know is not going to pass. I simply just had a comment to some of the things that were said about us. I just wanted to speak on it. But if you won't allow it,
Go ahead. Go right ahead.
go ahead. I wanted to just say something, the words that I've heard tonight, toxic actions, bullying, plotting, hateful, negative behaviors, nastiness, bigotry, all of these words. And what I will say on it is, I will read what I wrote. It's short, and I know you're all biting at the bit to hear from us. So, with the recent resignation of our town manager and the resulting accusations, I want to remind everyone that there are always two sides to every story. Unlike the one-sided articles published by our local newspaper. When we were sworn in as new councilors, coming in at a time when there was already bad press for Winslow, the three of us were advised to avoid negative comments about our town and not to engage with the Sentinel regarding such matters. Despite the numerous articles about this council, many of which, in my opinion, lack truth and validity, you will notice that none of the three councilors has spoken or commented on them. We believe we did that and stayed silent to be in the best interest of our town. If you look closely at these articles, a common denominator becomes apparent. This is one individual who has frequently commented, not in a way that supports the councilors or the well-being of the town. However, I'm not here tonight to throw out accusations or tarnish a reputation of our town manager, Ella. In my experience, I have always treated Ella with respect. As a valued colleague and as our town manager, we may have disagreed on certain issues, but our discussions have always ended with a handshake, mutual respect, and a smile. I've always valued our productive working relationship. It's challenging to respond to accusations when the specifics are not clear or known. It's unsettling that unsubstantiated claims can cause such an uproar. I will say I have never looked to remove, fire, or treat Ella any differently because of her gender. Not once. I will be closing by saying this is difficult. It's difficult to defend oneself against an unnamed enemy, especially when you've never considered that person to be an enemy. I wish Ella the very best as she moves forward to the next journey in her life.
Audra?
Okay, under communications, we still have the Charter Review Committee. That's just kind of pending until after the November 5th election, but I think we're waiting until after
Unless anybody wants to remove it.
January. Okay.
Does anybody want to remove that off the table?
Okay. And then we have a presentation from Dr. Pei, MD3. I think he's out in the hallway there. Your turn. Jeff, he has 10 minutes, right?
Yes.
Anticipate this crowd. They've been coming. I have other handouts, just a few, but thankfully we have slides. I'm sensitive that I am here as a visitor. How much time is appropriate in this meeting?
10 minutes tonight.
Good, perfect. I'll honor it. So I'll talk fast.
Tim, just
So-
tell me when you
Yes.
want me to move that on.
Oh, thank you. Okay, you can move it on. So my name is Tim Pei. I'm an emergency physician at Maine General. I live in Rome, and I'm presenting to you the MD3 program report out. And MD3 is a physician response team that works along with 911 responders, so police, fire, EMS. We're a very unique program. There are not many of us in rural America. So the idea that we're trying this out in a small Kennebec County in central Maine is quite unique. Our program is funded by a grant that was allotted to the county. And now we are proposing that we carry on this program with county tax funds. So I'm really here with a plead for funds. But I'm honored and a little bit intimidated by asking for that. So the way I approach this is I'm going to report out as objectively as I can the results of our program over the last 11 months. What I'm asking for is $350,000 per year, divided amongst 126,000 residents of Kennebec County. So that's about $3 to $4 per year per resident, just to put this in context. Okay. So I'm going to tell you about evidence of mortality benefit having a physician on scene when you call 911. I'm going to talk about other tons of details about this program and then the sustainability questions. So we can, next slide, please. Thank you, Ella. So what this is, we really are focused on the most critically ill and injured. So that's cardiac arrest predominantly, severe trauma. That's when a physician can add a little bit more than your professionals of EMTs and paramedics, okay? We also, though, can treat and release. That's not within the scope of practice of anyone in EMS. So that's the far other end of this, which is me suturing your finger and telling you to go home and saving you from an ER visit, right? Something like that, and many other versions of that. We also provide a ton of education. So I'll get to the details of that. This has been my biggest surprise, is how much education we pulled off in 11 months. How many people we've done, how many hours we've done in it. So next slide, please. A little bit about evidence. So I'm a physician. So everything that I do is based on evidence, studies, statistics. That's the oath I took. I can't just do something because I feel it's a good idea. I have to be able to prove it's a good idea. So when I found this study, this is a meta-analysis that was published looking at physicians responding to cardiac arrest across the world. So this is 14 different studies. And the question they asked was, if you add a physician to your paramedic colleagues, does it have an impact on saving more lives? And if you look closely at this last thing, we almost double your chances of surviving, not just getting a pulse, but surviving to discharge from the hospital. And that's the golden egg. The real true gold here is surviving discharge with your mentation intact after you suffer a cardiac arrest. So almost doubling that is a little bit unbelievable to me, and it gave me a huge boost on this whole idea. So I have the evidence, I have statistical significance that we have this benefit. We'll give you your best chance. What I also, as a medical director, which is really a teacher, is my challenge with education is, can I close that gap? What am I bringing that I could teach to my paramedics and EMTs to make that number close when we're not there? And that's the other second part of this big challenge, because we can't always be there. Next slide, please. So it's worked. This is an award we got for a life saved in the city of Waterville. I will say that everyone else on scene got the same award. This isn't just for the physician. It's a team that pulls this off. But I'm very proud of this. This is a patient that has mentation intact, that is walking after cardiac arrest. And I will say the intervention that the physician did here, it was the physician that did it. But after this case, every person that was involved in that knows about it and can now do it themselves. And that's the full sort of force multiplication of our impact, not just saving a life, but teaching that and making sure everybody there forward has that skill set. And if we can do that every time we interact with our colleagues and with patients, then the impact of the physician involvement just spreads. So next slide, please. This is a meta-analysis of 22 studies. When I say meta-analysis, what that means is they take all the evidence and they put it together, and then they churn through the statistics and see if having the physician there made an impact on mortality. And this is around severe trauma. And 22 studies, 54,000 patient interactions is what this found statistical significance that in severe trauma, you can have an impact. What's interesting about this, if you pressed me on if you read the lines on this, you would find that that evidence is based on a helicopter being involved. And that's critical. So we don't replace life flight, we add to. So if life flight can't fly for weather or for competing missions, which can happen as many times as a third of the times they're requested, we can hopefully fill in that gap. We just were awarded a grant that I can now purchase a refrigerator in my truck to carry blood with me all the time. And that's going to be a critical intervention, that we could get blood sent to us from the hospital up until now, but now I'll have it all the time. And that makes me, I think I can bring ourselves close to this with that ad. If I can give you blood when you're bleeding to death, that can make a big difference. That is not an option other than life flight in the state of Maine. So next slide, please. So if we look at, can we have one vehicle across all the miles of Kennebec County and have an impact? This is where I crunched our numbers to see if that was possible. 10 different times we were the first advanced life support on scene. Okay, and of those 10 times, 5 were cardiac arrests, which we know statistically the significance is high impact on us being there. So this made me proud that we were getting there, we were there at the right time. Maybe we got lucky, but luck is good in this game. So next slide, please. This is just how we picked our hours. We are available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. right now. These are just the peak times of requests for 911. So we took 12-hour budget and we put it where most people need our help. And we took the days of the week that fit that as well. So next slide, please. This is what we do. We can offer all these different, there are several examples of emergency surgery that we can do. You can see the blood that we just talked about, many different options that you get from a physician on scene. Next slide, please. And this is our up-to-date as of yesterday. We've done 181 responses over 11 months. We've had 10 interfacility transports. That's when the hospital needs the help from us because life flight isn't available. So this is about once a month, roughly, when someone is so sick that just the team they can put together is not enough. So they add us to this. We've done 182 hours of teaching, over 600 students in 11 months, which I think is fantastic. So that's a high impact of education. We've done a bunch of quality assurance. This is us reviewing charts. This is a little bit more of the supervisory role of the physician, making sure what was done right as it should be. And if not, we teach, right? It's a constructive oversight. And then community outreach. This is community outreach right now. So next slide, please. This is where we've taught. If you look through this list, it's everywhere from the vocational EMT courses of high school students all the way through to physicians. So we're teaching every aspect here anytime that we can. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is what it looks like. This is us teaching at different firehouses. This is us doing a debrief right after a cardiac arrest. So we involved in the care, then we settle back, we restock our equipment, and we talk about what went well, so it keeps going well, and what could have gone better. And that's just over and over and over so that everybody's learning. So next slide, please. This is more teaching. These are other examples of physicians at play. Next slide, please. Just some highlight cases of what we see. Non-convulsive status epilepticus. This has been a surprise here. This was two 2-year-olds and one adult. This is one of those life-threatening seizures, and the physician there was able to recognize that even though the convulsions had stopped, the seizure was still going by very specialized just teaching his physical exam. Everybody that's involved with these knows how to do the same thing now, right? So it's just on us to play it. But this had a big impact on those as far as stopping a seizure that, had it kept going, could have been life-threatening. So I'm very proud of those 3 cases. And I'm more proud of the teaching. Next slide, please. This is just another allotment of everything that we've done, different types of cases. They're all severe, most of them. Some of them are treat and release. Next slide, please. And this is where we've been. So you can look at the county. The higher numbers usually are population densities. More people live there, so the more times that they call. There are a couple gaps here that we need to fill. So the western part of the county, I think, is a little lonely from us right now. So we're working on that. Next slide. This is another look at it. Next slide, please. And these are our docs. I have 3 more that are onboarding right now. So the staffing is stable, which I'm excited for. Next slide, please. And I need it because we've only covered 75 of our goal shifts. So I need that staff. But 3 of those docs, 4 of those docs have just come on. So I think these numbers next time I report out should improve. Next slide, please. And we've had a lot of news on this, which I'm very humbled by. But a lot of publication here that's been nice to see and a little awkward for me, but we're getting used to it. So next slide, please. And this is just about our funding. We do need the cash to continue, and it's whether this return on investment is worth it. And that's time. Thank you. I have other slides, but I think we can honor you guys with 10 minutes of time. And if I have the time, I'll take any questions, please. I know I spoke fast.
If I may.
Good, Lee.
Chair?
Good.
Dr. Pay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for bringing this tremendous program and opportunity to rural Maine, when I know it's kind of preset on larger urban areas. So I'd like to thank you for that. I do have a couple questions. You touched on the getting the refrigerator and being able to administer blood in the field. How does that work to ensure the safety of the patient as far as cross-typing and whatnot?
Oh, great question. So we use universal donor blood. So it's a precious resource. That's O positive, O negative type blood. So there's a lot of responsibility for me taking ownership of that blood in our vehicle to assure that it's not wasted. So there's a lot of pressure on us. So the fridge is very expensive, and it has a Wi-Fi thermometer linked to the blood bank, so they have continuous supervision of the safety of that blood product. But because it's universal donor, it can be given to anybody.
Okay. Another question I had was, as far as the cost per year, you said you were looking for, was it 355,000? Now,
Roughly.
those funds, is that to fund just the program? I'm curious to know if this program were to continue, and I hope it does with the funding. How do you figure in the contingency of replacing equipment and things like that?
Yeah, that's a challenge. So like any fire department, police department, EMS, you need a vehicle fund to anticipate the wear and tear of a vehicle. So in that budget, if we do well enough, we would have that allotted a certain amount. Plus we apply for grants. So I ripped through a slide that showed all of the grants applications that we've done. And we'll be working hard to not need that vehicle fund if we can get grant funding. But there's no guarantee we get that. So you have to plan ahead. You have to pick at that each year. And we make do. Right now, we're in a Toyota RAV4 that we got for $15,000. So it's not the nicest vehicle in the EMS fleet out there, but it works great. It runs well, and we pack it full of all our equipment, and we're thankful to have it. So
Okay, and as far as I know I saw the slide that you're doing a tremendous amount of training and whatnot with the different EMS and the schools and full level. Do you have any kind of, is it on a situational basis that you do the training, or do you basically promote and say, we're gonna go to this location with this specific training that's probably above maybe a student and maybe more of a hands-on at a physician level to allow more, or maybe one individual from each community to jump on board and spread the training like that?
All of the above. So
Okay.
anytime that we're asked to come, we work hard to include area EMS agencies so that it's spreading to as many people as we can. So we went to Augusta Fire for an all-day advanced airway clinic with 4 stations of surgical procedures and other complicated, high acuity, low occurrence skills. But we invited other fire departments to come in and other EMS agencies to be a part of it. I do think we need to get better with that and promote it better, communicate it better, be more proactive in that inclusivity of the teaching. And that's one of our goals if we have the honor of continuing as far as funding. But we also do spontaneous teaching, organized teaching, clinic-type teaching. It's all of the above. And I'm blessed to have talented teachers as part of the physician team.
Okay. And just the last question, you had spoke on how many physicians you had, and you said you have 3 that are going to be transitioning in?
Yeah.
If those 3 are successful in coming in, will you be fully staffed at that time, or?
Oh, that's a great question. It depends how many shifts they give me to be
Okay.
determined, right?
So are you recruiting them to come in and be like ER physicians or other type of practice in the area, and then hopefully kind of piggyback them to join your team?
Yeah, good question. So I have 2 that I'm proud of that have come to Maine General, just started this year, who largely came because of MD3. It's a unique program. You can pick any emergency department to work at in Maine. Everybody's hiring. So to be able to bring them into this county to be formal, full-time ER physicians is a real win to stabilize our EDs. And in addition, they get to do this on the side. But I also pull these physicians from Bethel, Bangor, Freeport. They're driving in Appleton. They all are driving into this county to participate. They don't all live here. Only 2 of us actually live in town, or in county, I should say, if you define county as home, which I'm learning to. But the recruitment is real. It's a real pull for a physician that's uniquely interested in out-of-hospital, pre-hospital care. And many of these physicians started as EMTs and paramedics and then went to med school, just like my story, many, many years ago. So it's a unique recruitment opportunity to keep something this alive, just to bring physicians into the county.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and please continue the great work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dale, do you have something?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, just a few. Looking at your numbers, Dr. Pay, here for Winslow, just Winslow. It shows in the 10 months you've had 10 calls in Winslow. Do you know how many calls where you've been called and you've been unable to meet the call?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't have that data that I could say when they have called and requested us and we
Yeah.
weren't there.
And you were busy and you couldn't respond to the call?
Yeah, or we just weren't staffed that day. Because
Yeah.
if you look at it, we've only got 75% of our goal days staffed. So there certainly are examples when they've requested us, or I was just too far away. So that certainly happened. We really have about a 30-minute window to get to the request. Otherwise, you're disrupting the flow of the call. It's quicker to get to the ED instead of bring the ED to the patient if it's greater than 30 minutes most of the time. So, but I don't have that number of how many times.
Where are your units based?
We park the vehicle overnight when we're not on in Augusta. But once we go on duty, we're all over the county. So there's no requirement or expectation to be in one place.
How many vehicles you have?
Single one.
And that's based strictly out of Augusta?
No, it's parked in Augusta overnight because that's where Delta has given us garage space. But But during the on-call time, we can be anywhere in the county. There's not a certain space that sometimes we're at the hospital, other times we're teaching here in Winslow, other times we're in Augusta. It's meant to be mobile, just because we don't know when the call's going to come. So the more we can be spread out, the more likely we'll be available to whoever's calling.
If by happenstance, the vehicle is not out on a call, do you give any consideration to basing that unit for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours in Waterville, Winslow, Fairfield, Oakland, closer to our area?
I don't have, the hard part to this is I'm sort of owned by the county as a whole. So I'm hesitant to commit myself to one specific town. I'd rather be moving through as much as I can to be available to all. And that's a hard balance. You know, I live in Rome, so we're really out there. It takes a while for the ambulance to get there. So you almost would argue the impact of having the physician further away from the home ED may be higher for that individual patient. But you have to balance that the higher number of requests come where the population is more dense. And so it's hard to balance individual versus community on that. And the only way I've done it thus far is just to let my physicians roam wherever they are at any time. And sometimes that's driven by teaching, right? So our goal is to teach 1 to 2 hours per shift. Other times it's quality assurance activities. But it's an excellent question, and I can bring that back to the team to debate where's the best place for us to be. But it'll be an active debate.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good questions.
Anybody else?
Yes, through the chair. Are you only going to have one of these vehicles, or are you going to have multiples down the road? I can only afford one, and my grant is coming out, so I don't really have the privilege of anything other than asking for our current status. Okay. My dream, if you gave me a blank check, would be to funny you should ask. I that'd be good. I think the county needs more than one. I think you could put one in the north and one in the south. And I think if I could take a talented group of paramedics and train them up to the level of something similar to Lifelight, I could have critical care trained, advanced scope of practice paramedics staffing this vehicle with physician support, physician teaching. But if I can train them well enough and support them well enough, they can come pretty darn close to a physician similar to Lifelight, works autonomously. And I think that example would be quite exciting. I think that's possible. We have enough, if we fund this program, I have enough teachers, enough oversight. I would have right now 6 physicians. That's double the amount of physicians that Lifelight has supporting them. So certainly the potential is there. It comes at a cost. That's the return of more investment. I think the step one is just to keep this program as it is funded, and then I will rapidly turn that around and request more in order to give the county more. Thank you, Dr. But Pompey. one step at a time. Thank you. Great questions.
Okay, moving on. Thank you, Dr. Pay.
Thank you for your time
Thank you.
during this meeting.
Terrific meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, I have no minutes for this meeting. I promise I will have them the next one. Reports of committees and commissions, the town manager's report.
Okay. The following items took place this past month. I've rewritten a new grant application for the 1804 schoolhouse through the Maine Historic Preservation Committee. As you know, we wrote one last year, and we didn't win the grant. They required us to have an architect re-engineer the roof design, so we found an architect that was able to do that. This time, the grant application is actually going to be closer to $40,000. I should be hearing something within the next couple of months on that. We're going through the application process for a Brownsfield grant for the asbestos removal at the junior high. We did discover that we don't qualify for one, and the reason for that is we have owned the property since the beginning of the school, since the school was there, so the contamination was actually created by the town of Winslow. And to get that grant, it's to clean up properties that you've purchased or come into ownership of that was owned by somebody else. But to go with that, in Paul's report, the Public Works report, the contamination that's in the ground, we've found that that has been broken down to the point where we're not going to have to remove it.
If you remember right, that was a $300,000 hit that we're going to have to pay for. That's kind of resolved itself, so that's not on deck. As far as the asbestos removal, Craig was supposed to have a meeting. I tried getting hold of him last week. At the end of it, I wasn't able to, so I'm assuming that that took place, and we should be going out to bid for that shortly. I participated in a panel discussion at the high school with the students about career choices and what types of challenges municipalities offer for employees. And I had a pretty engaged group there, so that was kind of fun. And hopefully we got some future employees coming up through. The new executive director for the Waterville Humane Society came into my office and briefed several of us on potential future costs and help us understand the services that they provide. And I think Bill, our new ACO, has probably learned a little bit about that, just as I have. I want to thank Audra, Katie, Tanya, and all the volunteers who work so hard with early voting, voter registrations, and elections. That was probably the biggest event that we've had as far as registrations go. This has been a tough year for all of us. Our local politics were brutal on citizens, candidates, and town employees. Social media pages have really been tough on us. I hope this is not the new norm. Congratulations to our 2 new council members who won their seats. That's all I have.
Is there any other departments that want to go through their report? Paul? No. Do I have a motion to approve all the reports as presented?
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Seeing none?
Adam Lint,
Yes.
Lee Trahan,
Yes.
Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
Yes.
and Fran Hudson.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Okay, we have no tabled business, so on to old business. Order number 21-2024, authorization for the Public Works Director to expand undesignated funds to the Public Works Equipment account and to purchase a 20-ton tilt deck trailer at a cost not to exceed $41,955 and an asphalt roller at the cost of $22,675. Total expenditures not to exceed $65,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Being none?
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
Yes.
Fran Hudson,
Yes.
Adam Lint,
Yes.
Lee Trahan,
Yes.
and Jeff West.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Okay, on to new business. There is a joint public hearing for LD 2003. We do have enough planning board members, and Garrett is here to explain that to you.
So how's it going this evening? So I'm here to present what it is the LD 2003, which what it is the Affordable Housing Act, an act to implement the recommendations of the commission to increase housing opportunities in Maine by studying zoning and land use restrictions. So the definitions of the three, which is the three core things of what this all implements, is accessory dwelling units, a self-contained dwelling unit located within, attached to, or detached from a single-family dwelling unit located on the same lot. An accessory dwelling unit shall be subordinate to the principal dwelling unit on the lot. An accessory dwelling unit must be a minimum of 190 square feet and must not exceed 1,000 square feet. You're allowed up to 4 per lot. All must meet land use setbacks. So when I say that allowed all 4 lot, if your lot doesn't meet the correct size to suitably sit that within its setbacks in the zone. An additional dwelling unit. You're now allowed an additional dwelling unit on a lot that can meet all zoning land use standards for the additional dwelling unit. So 2 building lots can be permitted on one same driveway. So once again, an additional dwelling unit would have to meet the exact same restrictions as if you're putting up
just a dwelling unit on its own. The affordable housing development. So affordable housing development goes along more the lines of income-based and rent. So what this would be a development that came into the town of Winslow and wanted to build affordable housing that would meet to not exceed certain percentages, and which would be indeed restricted. They wouldn't be able to just jump it and change it. Zoning districts, this is allowed. All three of these are allowed in all of the town of Winslow's districts, with the exception of the industrial district. Permits for each are done the same way as most build permits, through the application process with a code enforcement officer, which is myself. All ADUs must follow MUBEC building codes with occupancy certificates. And that's the end of my presentation. Do you have any questions?
I got a question to the chair. Question, these guidelines are new accepted parameters. Is they gonna be broken down in a way that residents can access maybe on the website?
Yeah, so actually what this is, so this was a state law brought in by the state statute, and the state had allotted us money to be able to work with KV Cog to implement all of this state statute into our town ordinances. So now, I would be enforcing this regardless of, so since the beginning of January 1st, I had been enforcing this without it being in the ordinances. But this right here, and what it's gonna be is to implement it in our ordinances, so that way residents can open up low density, and it's actually set right in, we made it right in a column. It'll say additional dwelling unit, ADU, with lines that will tell you the setback requirements, the exact size and dimensions of.
Okay, and in order to get a letter of occupancy for these ADUs, that comes directly from you?
Yes, that would be the exact same as in the inspection process.
For a building, a new
any type
dwelling?
of new dwelling.
Okay.
Yep.
And then will you actually give the homeowner an actual letter of some sort that goes in their permanent record?
Yes,
That
yeah, that's
okays
actually been a
them?
big thing that I've implemented in the town of Winslow, is I'm very big on documentation. So as you'd probably see, if you go through the town of Winslow, there's nice bright new placards that go up on when you're building something. And the same thing, my office has made actual occupancy certificates. So now you receive a formal certificate with the town of Winslow seal on the top.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Through the chair, is this implied into all the zones, or are they all different?
So the actual like square footage size
Yes.
is the exact same, but the only difference is would be each zone already has different setbacks, so you'd be implemented to what setback you're in that district.
Okay, thank you, Garrett.
Any questions from the public? Any more from the council? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Garrett.
Resolution number 30-2024, approval of an application for renewal of an automobile graveyard junkyard permit for Adam Penny, doing business as R&K Auto Salvage on Moore Road.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Since Garrett's here, there's been no issues with the junkyard
You
out
stole
there?
my thunder, dude.
I got it.
I was going there.
Can't be quiet the whole meeting, right?
I have not seen any issues.
Since the last inspection, no other issues with neighbors or anything that have any validity or any,
Nope,
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Seeing none.
Dale Macklin,
Yes.
Fran Hudson,
Yes.
Adam Lind,
Yes.
Lee Trahan,
Yes,
Jeff West,
Yes.
and Mike Joseph.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Okay, on to resolution number 31-2024. There was an error on the agenda. I did put the wrong foundation it's authorization for the town manager to accept a donation from the Bill and Joanne Alphon Family Foundation to benefit the Winslow Public Library. And Lisa is here.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Yeah. Go ahead.
Just that the Alphons were very generous to give us this grant. It's going to increase our easy reader collection, which are the section of books that help young people move from picture books to JUV books. And they're very expensive, so we're very grateful for the grant.
Lisa, did you apply for that grant through the library or?
We have gotten grants from them before, so they contacted us and asked us
Okay.
if we needed anything, and we were happy to then send them the information on what we needed.
If I may, through the chair. Lisa, question, the grant process is, if they've contacted you, is that something that we can stay ahead of and be ready for the next cycle, that we can maybe identify some other areas that could use a little boost?
They have very specific areas that they like to donate to. So I usually have a list of things that will fit into those areas, and I bring them up. But if anybody has any ideas, please send them to me, and I will add them to my list of things for grants, because I'm always looking for grants.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Any other discussion from the council? Seeing none.
Fran Hudson,
Yes.
Adam Lynch,
Yes.
Lee Trahan,
Yes.
Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
and Dale Macklin.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. On to resolution number 32-2024, authorization for the Winslow Public Library to no longer charge fines for the collection of overdue books and to increase the fees for initial membership and patron renewal for out-of-town patrons by $5.
So moved. Second. Any discussion?
Yes, I have a question, sorry.
Yeah.
Lisa, now that we won't be going after the late fees, what's to deter the borrower from just not returning the book at all?
After an item has been overdue for a certain amount of time, they get a bill, and they get blocked from borrowing until the item is either returned or they pay the bill. So we find that we take in very little in fines anymore, and it tends to affect people who really need to use the library the most. So we also do fine-free Mondays. We've done that for years, so most of the overdue items come back on those Mondays. So it's just giving our patrons, who are taxpayers for the vast majority of our patrons, the opportunity to bring them the books back on other days and still not have to pay fines, so.
Okay. And then the increase of the $5,
Yeah.
what is the current membership for the library for
Okay.
an
For a year?
out-of-state person, or I mean, out-of-town person?
For an out-of-town person, if you own property in the town but don't reside here, you still get a free library card. This is only for people who reside out of town and who don't own property in Winslow. So right now, we charge people $30 for the first year, and that covers parents and the children in the household. And then if they continue to renew after the first year, we charge them $25 a year. So what we're saying is we would like to go up to $30 a year for renewals and $35 for the first year. And after crunching a lot of numbers and looking at how much each individual taxpayer pays in Winslow to support the library, we felt that this was a fair and equitable request. That fee hasn't gone up in over 10 years, and obviously the costs of supporting the library have. So we want to balance everything out of respect for our taxpayers.
Thank you very much.
Through the chair. And that's just for out-of-town people, you're not charging, there's no change to citizens or
No.
residents or
Listen,
anything?
if you reside in Winslow, you get a free library card. If you own property in Winslow, you get a free library card. That's the way it's always been.
Perfect, thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else?
Adam Lint,
Yes.
Lee Trahan,
Yes.
Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
Yes.
and Fran Hudson.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, resolution number 33-2024, providing for the municipal officers to agree to sign an agreement with the Maine Department of Transportation to allow a construction over-limit permit to be issued to the contractor of the Garland Road Fish Bridge project.
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion on that?
I think Paul has already left for the evening, but those are just kind of standard permits. Yeah.
He's right
Oh,
there.
he is right there. He's not hiding. He is hiding.
I am hiding.
Is there any questions for him? No? Okay. Lee Trahan,
Yes.
Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin.
Yes.
Fran Hudson,
Yes.
and Adam Lint.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. On to discussion. Establish a process for replacing the town manager due to her resignation. Fran?
I'd like to turn that over to Bill, if I may.
Counselors, I sent you a memo over the weekend on a possible way you could proceed. Ella has given a 90-day notice, which I believe is up on February 5th. And there's quite a bit of work involved in replacing a town manager, and something you might consider doing is forming a small committee of counselors to interview prospective professionals who might assist the town in the search process. And that committee could then come back to the council with proposal for such employment, and the council would then vote on that, and then you would have a business or an organization in charge of the overall process, soliciting applications, reviewing them, ultimately giving the council recommendations on the top 3 or 5 or whatever, and then the council would proceed to interview and ultimately make a selection. And this is a process that can take a fair amount of time. So now, I'm just suggesting one possible way of proceeding. It's really entirely up to the council. It's at your discretion how you wish to proceed. But these things often take longer than you expect, so it seemed prudent to have this matter, at least on the council meeting tonight, to begin the discussion. Something you might also want to consider along the way here is that it may take a considerable amount of time for replacement, and we're moving into the winter, and people that don't necessarily like moving in January, February, or March. So you might want to consider at some point the possibility of hiring a short-term interim manager if in fact it looks like this search process is going to take an extended period of time. So I had a conversation with Councilor Hudson, who was asking about where do we begin? And I said, well, let me think about it. And we discussed it at some length, and then I sent a possible proposal. But that's just a single idea. You can go in a different direction if you wish. I would urge the council to consider employing professional assistance in the search process. It is time-consuming, and there are professionals who can sift through a number of applications, who can also seek out applicants from outside of the state if necessary for this very important position. So it's open for discussion.
Through the chair, the hiring short-term manager, how do you go about that?
That could be role of this committee, if you were to form one, to solicit possible applicants. I'm not sure if you would do that immediately, because you have to try to get an idea how long is it going to take for the replacement to hire a new manager. Until you've got some initial idea there, I'm not sure you'd know where to begin in terms of an interim. But I'm just saying, I don't think you should put that completely on the back burner, because it could well be something that you have to consider doing.
Doesn't MMA have a pool?
And that's typically where most towns are going through right now. They have an interim manager's pool, but they also have a team that does hiring for this type of situation.
Right.
So they're a resource that we're actually members of, and it would be certainly worth a phone call to check with them.
Through the chair, is there other organizations other than MMA as well?
Yes.
Do you have a list of them, or is there many of them?
You can obtain them. I know that Waterville went through that process almost 2 years ago. I don't have the name of the business that Waterville employed, but it can certainly be obtained. But with a telephone call, Waterville's closed today, or I would have checked.
Yeah. So
And there are, it's not like there are a dozen different groups out there doing this, but there are several.
Okay, so you'll be able to get that information for us probably tomorrow?
Well, it's up to the council how it wishes to proceed. MMA is one possibility, private organization is another possibility. That's really up to the council what it wishes to do.
Through the chair, I think we'd need to know, does one charge a lot more than the other? What's the fee? What's the time frame that they'd be able to? So before we can decide which of the two, we need to know a little bit.
Would it be prudent to have Audra give MMA a call tomorrow and see what they would charge, or how their process works?
I can call over to Waterville and check out, find who they used as well. I think they used Eaton Peabody.
It might have been, it
Yeah,
was
no,
a couple of years ago, so I'm not gonna say that for sure. I think it would be helpful for the council to designate somebody to start the process. In other words, who's out there, what do they charge, what's the time frame, what are the services they provide, so this council can make its decision on who would be the best fit for the town of Winslow.
Or would, and I'm gonna lean on you for this one for a second, Ella. Where it's technically an HR issue, should we go through Tanya to do that?
We can go through Tanya, or I could work with her on it. I believe she's here, isn't she?
Sure am.
Yeah. I mean, that really
Oh, I
would
didn't see you
fall
hiding
in her
behind that.
wheelhouse. And, yeah, Eaton Peabody's good, MMA is good. If you hire a legal firm, you're gonna spend more money than you would with MMA. It's gonna be more costly.
So whoever in the town office has the
We
most
can
time.
take care of it. We'll make
Tanya.
Tanya. Tanya has the most time.
Hey, you don't need election, you got tons of time.
I think 10.
Tanya and I work well together. I'm sure we can help each other.
Is everybody good with that? To get the ball rolling?
Yeah.
And then
You'll have some information for us by the next meeting?
or
I'm sure.
sooner,
Well,
actually.
we'll probably send out an email so
Yeah.
everyone can get that information. The sooner the better.
When's the next meeting?
The next meeting's not until December.
Oh.
If you can get that information to us soon enough in advance of that next meeting, we can make a decision next meeting on who to hire.
Or if we had to call a special meeting, we could do that too.
Yeah, it's a couple of weeks
I
away.
mean, it's just, if we're coming in for one item, be in and out of here in no time.
Is there a discussion on this at all?
We're not, it's not part of our rules, but I'll allow it.
Can you stand up to the microphone, please?
Brenda Lint, District 5, and I guess I'm addressing this to the senior members. Seeing as we have just gone through this in the last year, you have experience in getting a new town manager. Can you illuminate some of us how you've done it in the past?
With Erica, how'd that work? That was an MMA
We
thing.
we had a large committee.
Yeah, no,
must
that was
been-
a committee.
That was a committee, it
put
must have
together.
been 12 of us. There was council members, there was actually members of the community that were involved with that. And
Zelda, you were on that committee, that hiring committee. The only problem with the big hiring committees like that is, in my personal opinion, and what we dealt with, it was just too many people with too many different opinions. Not that that's a bad thing, but it took forever to get anything done. I mean, the council is elected to make decisions like this. And
From the transition, Jeff, you mean, from when Erica left to when Ella came?
no, when we hired Erica.
Mrs. Lynn, can you just please, so everyone can hear you?
Okay, no, I'm talking about just in the last process. I mean, have we always had a committee? Have we always hired people to come in and look for our town managers?
No.
Has it just been done through the purview of the council?
It's been done through the purview of the council, it's been done with committees. Erica was done with a committee. I can't speak to Ed, because, well, that was a long
It's
time
only
ago.
happened, 3 times in 40 years?
Right, and then,
Mike Kavanagh.
Mike was appointed by the council, I believe. I wish Jimmy hadn't left, he'd have known.
No, he was appointed.
That's what I thought.
Well, all town managers are
Well, I
appointed by
mean,
the
no,
council. Yeah.
just a
But he was already a town employee that they just moved up through the ranks.
So there's really no set rules then as to
Not
how
really.
we hire a new town manager?
And the council has broad discretion in how it approaches the matter. The charter just charges the council with the employment of a town manager for a period of time up to 5 years. And it doesn't say a whole lot more. I mean, it says based on qualifications and skills and so forth, but that, of course, is very general language.
Okay, very good, thank you.
So we good with having Audra and
Yes.
Tanya look into that and get back to us, and we'll
Yep.
go from there?
Yep.
I'll work on that.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
A motion.